Okay, so this is just like a bit of an overview video for the whole thing. Now I've got it in sort of a bit of context for the area in West Yorkshire, which is generally the Huddersfield area, or the area that the Romans named the Brigantes tribe area, which I think the name is to do with the Roman god Bridget, because it was the Celtic god Bridget, because it was one of the main Celtic gods. The Romans named them Brigantes. So the word it means either a beam, a mast, or a pier going out. So it's almost like sort of a projection. A projection could be a good translation of this term they've got. They use it for mast, but also for a pier going out over the water, which then a pier going out into the water is almost like the Crannogs, the Scottish Crannogs, although they've got that name, Crannog. But if Brigantes is to mean pier or a mast, because a mast of a ship, project out, or just basically it means going out, the sunbeams project outwards, light beams, consciousness projects outwards. So, this is what the term that the one of the main Celtic gods. Now, our area, which is Brigantes tribe area, I'm just going to play the video now. And I recorded this earlier, and I did it on my computer on Google Maps because it's a lot easier to do it on there than on my phone. And I didn't have a microphone to record it, so I'm going to have to try and. I think the mouse was on, so hopefully I can point out things. So I'm just going to do a very brief sort of, talk of the area as over the video that I did earlier. So I'll press play now. I might be able to pause it at some point if we need to stop, but I'll try and do it all in one. So in the middle, before I press start, so I'm starting off here, which is at Meltham. Now, the bottom right-hand side of the screen, you can see a very built-up area. Well, it's a town. So you've got Meltham, or village. It's like a town now. It was supposed to be a village, Meltham Village, but it's like a town now. And then right in the centre, just below that reservoir, we've got a land feature. And it's level topped, and I went up and did a video on there the other day. You can see my video of walking around Dunelm. So we've got this name Dunelm, which is an older name, and I've done a whole video talk on the meaning of the terms Dunelm, looking into that. It's more modernly known now as Meltham Cop, right? I mean, you could abbreviate the term from cap to cop or change it or whatever, but it's they call it Meltham Cop, right? And it's right on the edge of the Pennine Hill geological feature, which you'll see in a minute. Now, when I did the talk there, to the left-hand side, just where it's going into light from shade, all this sort of nice light green area, I show you in the video when I'm on site there that it's very, very dense in growth for Liberty Caps when it's in season, obviously in September, October. And all around it, all around this area is kind of prime area, really. So I propose that almost that light green section to the side was almost like some sort of allotment. Now, the Hillforts are associated with either mining or quarrying for materials. We know that from Sisbury Ring Hillfort, so there's no reason why, particularly when you've got an area that's rich in resources, that it wouldn't be convenient to reap the benefits of having a large amount of that resource there if it was being used, and if it was in use, if it was being used and provided or supplied to the rest of the tribes. For example, the Druid order was all through the Brigantes tribes. We're supposed to have different tribes with different kings, but the Druid order was all over the island, and then we've got all the different, religious sites, we've got all the Welsh and Scottish sites and Irish ones and Cotswold 7 group and all that. So, and I do a specific talk about, why doesn't everyone just go around and, potter around looking for flint in their own area? Why were they supplying it from Sisbury when you could probably, go out on a walk and potter around and try and find a piece of flint, or you could go around, and probably find it and even mine it or quarry it, in each area of the country? Because Sisbury Ring found a very, very good resource for it, and other people are doing other different things, So it seems like it is more convenient to get it from Sisbury Ring. And in the James Sainsbury talk that he does, he actually goes into that, and they found it all over the country from Sisbury Ring. So now, I think it was the late 1700s, early 1800s, you can look on Google Maps and type in this reservoir here. That reservoir just slightly above centre, that was built in the late 1700s, early 1800s. It was built around I'm just trying to remember, I can't remember the exact date it was built, but I believe, when you've got this amazing site here, very interesting site, it is Hillfort shaped and it's levelish top, so it stands out like anything else, like, Old Oswestry main castle, not as big. I think there's probably likely would possibly be archaeological value in the surrounding area. So the worst thing you could do is build a reservoir there, because that, unless they wanted to build a reservoir to have an excuse to have a good dig there and they didn't find anything. But why rubbish and ruin the area when they're, to me, they could have put the reservoir somewhere far away from there. So I take that reservoir as an insult to the area, and rubbishing it, really. And to be honest, the side in light green to the left, which is the super prime, it's almost like they've got an allotment running alongside of it for growing liberties on, because when you're on it, that's what it is there at the side of it. If they could have got away with building a reservoir up alongside of it, they would. I can tell you that. If they could have got away with it, they would have done it. But because it's sloping downhill, you can't have a reservoir running downhill because all the water will run out of it. So they built it at the bottom where it levels out. So luckily, through the power of God, they couldn't actually build the reservoir alongside it and right off that perfect allotment. Now, diagonally towards the right-hand side as we go off screen, then it goes up to Castle Hill, which is essentially the same size as this. And then I'm going to be talking about Castle Hill. And then there's this other place that we've got now that we've found that we think's been covered up, which we've got a name, Warrior's Tomb, now known as Roundwood, which is sort of like a small version of Old Oswestry. And I actually believe that they could have... It might have had sides similar to Oswestry, and I think that it would have taken literally forever in a day to have completely flattened it and levelled it if you wanted to erase it from existence. Now, that would have taken more than a Roman army to have done that, because we know that at West Kennet Longbarrow, Silbury Hill, apparently, they're saying that it took longer to make Silbury Hill, right, which is a man-made hill, than it took to build Stonehenge and move the entire massive stones. They're claiming that it took longer to build Silbury Hill than it took to build Stonehenge, right? So to completely level and erase from existence one of these mounds that could or could not have been, significant and operations, collaborating operations, not unlike Sisbury Ring and Shanterbury Ring at Worthing, right? There's definitely some sort of operations going on there when you get these Hillfort bases, right? I mean, if it was harder to build Silbury Hill than to build Stonehenge, then it's going to be harder to completely erase from history something like Old Oswestry Hillfort completely. I mean, you could try and, make it look natural so it looked like it never ever was ever a Hillfort. So what I'm proposing when we get to Warrior's Tomb, which I'll refer to as Warrior's Tomb, is that I think that it might not have been perfectly mound shaped like a dolmen or burial mount shape. It could have had some sort of fortified sides shaped, and maybe if they wanted to try and vandalise it, so because if your area got recognised for having 3 hill forts, then people would all think, hey, what's going on here? There's 3 hill forts. This is really important. Now, we know Maiden Castle is massive and there's only one there, which is next to Dorchester near the sea. It's huge and massive. I mean, so it's that huge and massive that to rubbish all the sides of that and vandalise them, again, you're looking at a lot of time. It's not possible. Now, here, our hill forts, these ones are not quite even as big as Oswestry. They're only about a third the size of Oswestry even as well. So they're a lot smaller than Maiden Castle, a lot smaller than Sisbury Ring, and smaller than Oswestry. But there's 3 of them. There's 3, and they're all similar shaped. It's not coincidence that Meltham Cop and Castle Hill are similar size and shape. And we've got Warrior's Tomb, which that is the shape of Liberty Cap as well. And to add to that, on the top of Stonehenge, those stones cut on the top, which lock into the other stones on the top, are exactly shaped like Liberty Caps as well. You know, and half of the Celtic, archaeological finds that have been dug up. So we'll just go through the landscape. I didn't even want to have to do a long talk to get into this. I just wanted to have a quick video put up and scroll through the area, and I've ended up talking for 11 minutes now, so we'll get into this. So we'll start from Meltham Cop, but I want to call it Dunelm and the reservoir, which I think the reservoir is, further vandalism. So I'm shaking it around a bit just to get you orientated. There's Meltham Cop, move back, and then here we are right on the Pennine Ridge, on the Pennine borders. Now, I think there could have been dolmens or cairns along this ridge. And the reason for that is it just feels like that. I know it's a bit of archaeologists wouldn't rate this method, but when you're in Meltham and you look up, it's just got that feeling to it. And when you've got 3 sites next to each other, and then the river going all the way to Hull, it just makes me feel like this is like the Wicklow Hills, in Ireland. Now here we're at Castle Hill, Castle Hill's the one that you can see from everywhere. Castle Hill is the one that can be seen, particularly when you're up at Hopton. When you look on, it's very majestic and beautiful. It stands out, and you can see all around it. Now, Meltham Cop's a lot harder to see because it's so close to that ridge. So it's somewhat disguised, and that's not had any building around it other than that reservoir. The town's managed to keep away from it. Now, Castle Hill's got all this building around it. Now, here we've got the Warrior's Tomb, which is... I've got an old map, and I'll show you, and maybe I'll show you the old map afterwards. It's always had trees planted around it. Possibly Ramsden, John William Ramsden, or Richard Beaumont planted trees around it, or earlier than that. Now, I think that this Warrior's Tomb possibly could have had bigger sides around it, and they might have been dug out, either by the Romans or by de Lacy's when they fortified Castle Hill to take the attention away. Now, here... I wanted to show you the river on the left-hand side in an L shape to the front. All up the left-hand side there is Leeds Road, and the river goes all the way and then winds on to the right at the top of the screen through Mirfield and on to Dewsbury, and then through Wakefield, and then eventually goes on to Goole and then to Hull out to the sea. Now look at the distance between the river on the left. You can see the bend of the river and that Warrior's Tomb. It's not far at all. In fact, it's a little bit like the distance from Newgrange to the river, that sort of distance, something like that. I'm not too sure exactly, but it's around that distance. So I think there were 3, and obviously, there's going to be lots of other buildings around back then, roundhouses and things like that. But, we've got these raised sites, and they're all around the same size, They've got this sort of set size to them. They're all similar, and that's why I think they're all a triage of operations, And then we're coming back to Meltham Cop in the centre, but it's kind of got half in the dark and the light, but that's Google, that. And the thing with Meltham Cop on the top, when you're on there, it's not super flat. It's flat like you can see now from the map, but it's kind of wavery, and it makes me feel like I'm on Maiden Castle. Because when you go on to Maiden Castle, it's so big, it's not super flat. It's kind of like meadowy. And it's kind of, it very much feels like a mini castle when you're on that Meltham Cop. Went back to the ridge briefly again, and then we zoom back out here. So I guess I'll have to edit this onto the end of it. Right, so this is the area, you see. This is, I'm not too sure on the exact date, because somebody only just put this on the internet today. Uploaded it, kindly found it for us. So the bottom of the screen is the road, and to the left we'll go back into Huddersfield on Penistone Road, and to the right, goes towards Penistone. Now there's something going on here at Dalton Bank. That looks shaped to me. That Dalton Bank looks shaped. I went on there today, and the view from there is amazing. So there could very well have been something on there, lookout post or something. I don't know why they would have shaped it like that in those days. If it's all just farming, why would they shaped it? Doesn't look like there's much going on there, and there's hardly anything else in this in the area. Now there we have it. Now you can't really. It doesn't really look like much because it's disguised. But the sides of it are very, very, very steep. It's so steep. It's got this kind of limited cap shape as well. It's difficult to see the shape of it with the trees covering it. It's a shame that, look at it, there's no houses near it at all. And can you believe how built up it is now compared to then? This is why it's important to protect Old Oswestry Hillfort, because it's going to end up like this, and it's not nice. Maiden Castle's managed to keep relatively free from building. Dorchester's, a certain distance away from it. So it's quite upsetting, really, that the powers that be ended up not only rubbishing our area, but diving on top of it. And Castle Hill kind of took the attention away. And in fact, when De Lacy's, I think it was De Lacy's fortified Castle Hill, they're the ones who built the current ramparts into it as the shape they are now, and pointed it to the left-hand side, which is, it would have sort of pointed towards that site, but now it doesn't. So I believe that because this site, Castle Hill and Meltham Cop, are all similar size, I think that's evidence that there was some collaborated operations, I know they're not as big as Old Oswestry, but I think that if you were to erase this site and rub it out, it would have been, because Silbury Hill took longer to build than Stonehenge, and it's just ridiculous, it would have been impossible to completely flatten it. I think that there's good evidence that it might have been that instead of, it's too big to totally flatten, so, we could, if it was Hillfortified to be recognised as Hillfort, they could have, just completely, taken the shaping out of the edges and rounded it off, just into a hill. But the distance from the river, to me, is self-explanatory. There is something going on with this Castle Hill and Meltham Cop. There's no doubt about that. So it's really good to see it with no houses on. And in fact, I will show you, this is the old photograph and the new photograph together. So I got, that's that photograph I just showed you. And then this is the new one from the exact same angle and direction on Google Maps. And look at the mess around it now. Look at that. All that mess. And to finish it off, houses on top. Why houses on top? Now look down here. Look to the bottom right of the screen. To the bottom right of the screen, they've got all forests there. They've preserved forests and trees. If you're going to preserve forests and trees, why not preserve them on top of there? And look, just slightly north, all that countryside and fields that could have built those houses on. Why did they have to put them on there? Now, you might say, oh, well, they wanted to give people, common people with normal houses, lift them up in the world. But the thing is, right, from that hill, the surrounding view don't look much from here. But when you're stood on there, it actually, looking around you, is amazing view of a surrounding basin that you're in, right? Kind of like being up on Castle Hill, you can see all around, but not, you can't see as far, but it's still pretty cool view. And you can't see anything from those houses. And you can't even see it properly with the trees on now. I'm not saying the trees weren't there a long time ago, but if you're going to put houses on there, why not have a nice view at least, you know? So it seems to me, I don't think that they were wanting to help out the people who bought houses on there anyway, because they could have put them houses, well, they could have built them houses right at the top by the Lasser Hall Cricket Club on the edge, looking out with a perfect view. Why put them on a hill, lift them up, but with the trees still around it, so you can't see the houses and you can't see the view properly? And then you build up the area surrounding it, so it's super urban, and then the commoners that you've given a nice hilltop view of to look out at are looking out at not a beautiful, you know, in the middle of the valley around them. They're looking at a complete total mess, which is, you know, I really, in this modern world of Boris Johnson and Rees-Mogg, you know, I just want to line up Kirklees Council. I want to go back to 1932, where I want to go like to school. You know, like, I'll line up Kirklees Council in a row, get them to hold their hands out, like Headmaster used to do in England, in schools, and with a big cane or a big ruler. I just want to walk down them in a row and smack their hands, bang, 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 bang. Or, you know, like what headmasters used to do in England. Common practice. Line them up, pull the pants down, bend them over and smack all the bottoms in a row, you know? And actually, that's what I think, that whoever's behind doing this, whoever in the government is the secret orchestrator and collaborator, I think that's what they wanted to do to West Yorkshire. They want to get West Yorkshire for having this history and sites and give us a good thrashing. And you know, Tolkien was deployed here. I'm not saying Tolkien were taking one side or the other, you know, because he states in Lord of the Rings, you know, he writes it into Lord of the Rings, you know, he's not, when the Tree Man speaks, the Tree Man says, I'm not entirely certain which side I'm on, but I'm no friend of these, you know, orcs and goblins. So, and that's a Tree Man speaking. So, you know, this is covered in trees surrounding it, you know. Tolkien was sent up to investigate the Yorkshire dialect and accent, to look out for any preserved meanings and sayings and phrases which may hold, you know, knowledge or history of the area, you know. And then he had a friend called Haig, you know, and we know Tolkien was interested in ancient sites because of Uffington, Whitehorse, and Wayland Smithy and Dragon Hill, you know. So, but, you know, obviously being a servant of Her Majesty's government and a professor, he's also got his work at the universities to do. But we know Tolkien, you know, the Victoria Tower went up when Tolkien was born in South Africa, and then when he passed away, around that time they built the Emblem Mast. And, you know, the Lord of the Rings prominently features a large tower next to some mountains. We're next to the Pennine Hills on here, which I showed you earlier. So, you know, the stuff going on, there's something going on in the consciousness. And then I've got into in the other videos, I go into detail into Sir William Ramsden and, you know, the Mountbattens and all that. I've done a whole video talk on that. So, you know, I think the people of Old Oswestry need to, you know, get their act together and get the wits peeled, you know, when these houses are creeping up, you know, and take a stand, because, you know, they'll vandalise it eventually. They'll creepy crawly up to it, and then they'll get it. So here's Old Oswestry at the same zoom. So as you can see, there is to the right hand side, covered in trees, is the warrior's tomb. And I tried to get to the exact same zoom angle and everything. And then here we have Old Oswestry, which is a little bit bigger. But look at the point of it. That's the same direction. Do you know what I did? I went to Google Maps to here. I kept in the right zoom, right? And without zooming out, right, I found my way to Oswestry. I just put my finger like that, and I scrolled, right, without, you know, I found Oswestry. I just scroll. I went all the way across, through over Macclesfield, all the way over through Tattenhall, and then I wasn't too sure if I were going off or what I had to guess, and then I was looking at villages, sort of guessing, and then I found Wrexham. Because there's actually something strange at the side of Wrexham. How Crew's from Wrexham, actually. And, you know, and then obviously once I got to Wrexham, I were easy because I just followed the A49 straight down. And then here we are. And look at that. The peak, the point of them, the diagonal top left point is going in the exact same direction. And in fact, the general shape, isn't the general shape kind of similar, you know? Now, if you wanted to not only disguise, hide, or erase the existence of two Hillforts, you know, oh, it's all right having a Hillfort, it's only Old Oswestry Hillfort or Maiden Castle, but what if there were three? Then you'd be thinking, whoa, what's going on here? I mean, Maiden Castle, yeah, it's huge. I mean, that's why it's Maiden Castle, everyone knows. And Old Oswestry is a big Hillfort, but if you had three Hillforts, and I'm not saying, look at Worthing, you've got, this is the thing, Shantisbury Ring at Worthing and Tisbury Ring, they're within 3.5 kilometres. Now, the thing is, what's within 3.5 kilometres of that, on the right-hand side, is Castle Hill. And then another 3.5 or 4 kilometres or a bit longer away is the Dunelm. And then, boom, you're on the Pennines, you know, where are the Dommans and Cairns? Oh, I don't know, you know. But when I'm in Meltham, I just kind of get that feeling that, you know, maybe there should be some up there, you know. It just feels that way. If you could ever get a feeling from a place, from Feng Shui, if it ever existed. So there's Oswestry, right? And then I wanted to do, I should have been filming this sideways actually, but I guess I can zoom in later. And then there we go, there's Maiden Castle, and there's Dorchester. And to be honest, I mean, Dorchester's quite a big place. I love Dorchester, it's a beautiful place, amazing place. And look at the size of Maiden Castle. I mean, it's huge, it's a huge place compared to Oswestry. Look at that, you could easily fit 3, maybe 4 Oswestries. That's the same angle. I haven't zoomed in or out. I haven't changed the angle. That's the exact position and layout there of Old Oswestry. The exact angle and trajectory of view. Oswestry. And then we've got ours there. I think there was some sort of sides to it, and they might have smoothed it over and flattened it out. Or they just didn't need fortifications or sides, and they just had it like these have been elevated up here, but without the need, you know? So that's what I think. And I think Old Oswestry needs to protect this from any more housing going near it at all. It's a beautiful area, you know, and look at Maiden Castle. Look at how they've kept Dorchester away from Maiden Castle. And now look at the mess we've got here, which is scandalous. Kirklees Council, and not satisfied with putting these houses on there, then they're wanting to put a cafe, start on Castle Hill. Wanting to start on Castle Hill. Now, I think these are some old photographs of... These are the old maps of the Roundwood place, but we've got the actual aerial photograph now. You know, and we can't really get a good look at it because of those trees on there. Now, we don't know if the person planted the trees on to disguise it or whether the person planted the trees on to protect it. But they didn't do that a good job of protecting it for long, because then they built houses on. So, you know, and the fact, you know, the fact that it happened and houses went on it, you know, why didn't they have houses on it, you know? Why didn't they got houses on it back then? You know, why didn't they got houses on it back then? You know, Varley's excavating Castle Hill and a war breaks out. And then, you know, then he resumes for, you know, till early mid-70s, and then suddenly, like, right then, you know, have you found that enough now? Yep, bang. Well, put the nail in the coffin and get the houses banged on there. You know, so what's this one? That's actually Castle Hill before they put the Victoria Tower on there. I'm not sure if the pub was on it at this point or not. It probably was, because it was built in the 1700s, wasn't it? And photography wasn't invented till the 1800s, so that's the Castle Hill one. You see that the site, before the De Lacys got hold of this and started fortifying it and messing around with it, you know, you don't know what the sides were originally like on there. And I don't necessarily believe this Varley guy, because there were lots of wells around the edges of Castle Hill, but yet then Varley ended up digging that well on the top, which wasn't there before he started off, found the well. But yet there were loads around the side already. Why would you need that one when there were ones around the side? You know? It looks like there's 3 levels. You can see 3 layers of walkway around it. But as far as I know now, isn't there only 1 layer of walkway around it? The one around the top. There's the very, very top, then the next one down, but here looks like an additional one. I think DeLacy did a lot more than they make out. Now, this is a photograph that everyone's passing around, and it says that so it'd be Castle Hill from Bradford Road, but it's not, because that's not the correct angle that Castle Hill is when you stood on Bradford Road. It's going the wrong way. And apparently he's got this signed thing to prove that it's from Bradford Road, unless one of the different roads was called Bradford Road. So either the artist got his facts wrong or he's lied. Byram. You know? Sir John William Ramsden. Ramsden was meant to be a Liberal. And I've done whole videos on Ramsden anyway. He went down to Taunton and was an MP there, you know. And that's not far from... Taunton's just a stone's throw the other side of the motorway. Well, they didn't have a motorway back then, but Taunton is within that local area, sort of Glastonbury Tor, which is very well known for a building on a hill. So there's a connection there, which I'll go through that in the other videos. So that's that. Couple more photos I thought I'd just mention. So this is a really old map. I think it's from the late 1700s, a map. One of the first ever proper survey maps. So where it says Dalton Green, just slightly above centre of picture, and then it says sometimes called something else, but it's gone off screen, and Dives House. So that actually is a drawing acknowledging that raised hill area. He's not actually drawn it in the actual shape. It is kind of like a Liberty Cap shape, but he's acknowledged that it's significant enough to, you know, it's not just a tiny little... It's significantly raised up. And obviously he's not drawn the trees on it or anything, because this is just a map of roads and geology, you know, geography. So he's made note of it there on that map, but he's not put a name to it. People are saying that they've seen maps where it says Warrior's Tomb with a name on it, but then the website that had it mysteriously vanished. So we need to find out where that map is and what happened to it and who did it. See, this is what's happened to it. It's actually got built on. But he's drawn it. He has acknowledged it being there and existing. Now, as for Dunelm, Dunelm's marked out, and that's how I got the name from this old map. Dunelm, not Cop Hill. And I've done a whole video on that as well, separate, about the name Dunelm, because it's Helm. And it's actually kind of joined on a little bit to where it says Crossland there, almost kind of like a lemon growing off a tree. And then it's got that sort of marsh down the side. And then where the reservoir is now, I think that reservoir's drawn on there. I think this might have been... This could have been drawn when that reservoir was built, because there is sort of an area marked out like that. But it's definitely on there, in Meltham. So we've got a recognition of it. Now, what he does with Castle Hill is he actually writes a name on it. And actually, Castle Hill's drawn differently if you look at it, because the whole area is going upwards. It's an entire... Castle Hill itself is an entire kind of hilled area. And it looks less prominent than those other sites, you know? Because it's all going uphill towards it. Although the front side of Castle Hill actually, to me, seems to just kind of taper off. But he's kind of significantly drawn. And the actual flat area on top, he's done it even smaller. Now, the name is from the Romans, and it actually means fort near the bend in the river. But the Latin name, the Latin name Cam for carrying water and river. So when they name things, they say what things are like. So when they name animals, so when they called camel, when the Romans and the Latin culture named the camel, they called it a camel because it carries water and has raised humps on it. So if you think of like camel's humps are like Hillforts, but they also carry water, so it's but you see, you can have camels with one hump or two, and it's strange that this Cambodunum Castle Hill, I don't think that it's anything to do with slack, really. It's for the whole area. I mean, like, what's the name Huddersfield is the whole of Huddersfield area. So whether you've got a fort up at Slack, or whether you've got Castle Hill, or whether you've got, Elland or Brig House, Brig House, it's the Brigante's house. So it's a wide-ranging area. Cambodunum means a wide-ranging area of the Hillfort by the river. But there's two, like Camel's Hump, even three, because you've got Dunelm. And where's that other map that I'm looking for now? Picture. Oh, yeah, look. So, look, when you got the river coming towards Huddersfield, it does have a bend in the river. Huddersfield does have a bend in the river where it actually bends around Huddersfield. And actually, the distance Castle Hill is from the river there, the distance that Warriors Hill fort is not very far from the river at all if you go straight through where the ICI is being built, or Zenica they call it now. It's quite close to the river, actually. So just put a couple more pictures in. So right, so I've got a few more photos in here now. So this is the one that I wanted to show you. So this is perfectly aligned, sort of from where Kirkeaton is. There's a footpath that goes, if you want to do the Dalton Bank walk, and just before they've knocked that over school, there was a really cool old school building in Kirkeaton. It's not that long ago they knocked it down and built houses there, and they're really kind of not very nice looking houses. They could have converted it and made some really awesome sort of houses, separate houses out of that schoolhouse building. I don't know why Kirkeaton Council let them do that. So look, this is perfectly lined up. So actually, if you're on top of that Warriors Hill, you're a little bit lower down than the shot, and you can you just see the top of Castle Hill? If the tower wasn't on there, it actually goes down a little bit lower, and you can just exactly see about half of what you can see now of Castle Hill. Sort of like, you can actually see the top deck of it. So you can actually see from one side to the other if there weren't trees around it. It's difficult to see through the trees, but if you're on there, you can make it out. But it definitely stands out and looks significant. Once you line it up, from this angle, then you're like, oh yeah, I get it now. So you can actually see it. Obviously, the trees have been in. I think the trees have probably been on there since before the 1700s. But we don't. Kirklees Council might know who planted them. Maybe they can find out from the Beaumont record, Richard Beaumont records, or from the Ramsden estate. Maybe planted them. I'm not sure. But that photo kind of shows. Just look at the mess they've made now. They're trying to stop houses from being built near Old Oswestry Hill Fort, and they're having to keep objecting over and over again. That's why we need to get it made into an area of outstanding natural beauty, then we can protect it. Look at the mess. It's just, if I show you the picture of Maiden Castle, look. They could have built, there's plenty of places you can build. Like, at Lepton, there's a lot of farmland they could build. Why not just, why didn't they have some sort of, there's Oswestry. It's at least been sort of protected. You can just see the edge of Oswestry town creeping up towards it there in the bottom right-hand corner. And then, look at Maiden Castle. Look at, Dorchester is Dorchester could have ended up being massive and huge. It's got that Hillfort next to it, and look at the town. If you go into Dorchester, it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful city, you know. In fact, I remember not that long ago I went to McDonald's, and it was quite an old-fashioned. It was one of the earlier McDonald's, you know. And I'm like, wow, you know, it's funny that you're in the south of England, you know, and it's still not as super tech and built up as Manchester. It's funny being in the north of England. We've got Manchester, then Leeds, Bradford. It's all going super urban. You think when you get closer to London or you go further down south, and it's even more so, but it's not at all. In fact, a lot of places are very beautiful, very English feeling, you know, traditional, and they've kind of got some sort of sense. You know, some places, you know, well-known names like Winchester, these other places, they do have elements of city and urban development to them, but they seem to have this kind of pride and preservation in the roots of kind of English tradition. But Kirklees Council just don't. It's almost as if, I don't know what it is about Kirklees Council. It's like there's some sort of working men's club type, darts club, highways unit, eating bacon sandwiches with some super geek techs in the offices who like architecture and design of the modern world, and you know, they're obsessed with it, so bored that as soon as they're finished doing one design on the computer, they've got to start another one. You know, it's almost as if they're playing with Huddersfield non-stop, like they've got one of those little games in front of them. You know those games when you've got the squares, not a computer game, you know the normal game when you move the squares around to solve the puzzle, and then as soon as you finished it, then you shake it again and then do it again. It's like that. It's a fad. It's kind of like a hobby. We need to somehow get those people out of the council and then get them sat in a computer game arcade so they can just play that instead and then do what the fuck they want with it, just fuck around with it all day and not fuck up the town. You know, that's what we need to do. Because it's money as well. It's money being wasted. I mean, what have Dorchester done wrong? I mean, Dorchester is a thriving, you know, it's Dorchester and it's happening place. But yet, they're not made a total and complete absolute mess of it. That's why I think there's something else. There's something else going on. I mean, look at the mess. There's something going on. It's not just Kirklees Council. It's Kirklees. It's kirkleescouncil.gov.uk, and there are shadows. There are people in the shadows. Barry Shearman shifting around in the shadows, and Sir Patrick Stewart. Then you've got Prince Andrew pops up. It's almost like the Lord of the Rings with this Grime Wormtongue going from camp to camp. You know, 1 minute is, you know, going here, then he's in Mordor, then he's going back to, you know, someone has not wanted, that someone has not wanted to protect and preserve this area, and I don't know why that is. In fact, I think they have gone out of their way to make sure it's not protected. And it's got to a point now where it's such a complete and total absolute mess. I mean, look at the view from Hopton. Look at the symmetrical view from Hopton, with the Pennine Ridge in the background all the way across these amazing Pennine Ridge, which is a unique geological feature. And looking at Castle Hill symmetrically, it just stands out very prominent and majestic, you know, and it's in the centre of this amazing, beautiful valley around it. I mean, yeah, it's not the Lake District, yeah, it's not Scotland, it's not Aviemore, but if it hadn't have had the urban sprawl, you know, it's still a unique and beautiful place, you know, and you can have this, you know, why have the Hillfort there? Because the position of it has a nice view around it, and it's nice to look at, you know. And now it's not, because they made a complete total mess of it. So, I mean, this is what De Lacy did. This is what the De Lacys did following 1066 conquest. The bottom picture is, you know, the picture we just looked at, when you look at it straight on like that, that's a symmetrical. So when you come in closer, the bottom picture is the symmetrical alignment, right? And then if you twist it around to the left-hand side, then we're aligned with, if you notice at the bottom one, the tower's exactly in the middle of the hill as the hill's symmetry. But in the top one, the tower is to the right. Now we're looking symmetrically aligned with that. You know, the entrance to the, if you go up the footpath and walk onto the hill, don't drive up. If you walk onto it and there's that gap in the front and you can walk through the gap, and all the fortifications that Val is saying were made post-conquest when they got license to fortify it, license to make a mess of it, right? That pinnacle, that shape, you know, that apex, when you're aligned with the symmetry of it, this is where you're aligned with it. And it actually is not aligned symmetrically with the hill itself. So it goes off to the side, and it doesn't actually point towards that warrior's tomb. It probably did, and now it doesn't. In fact, the hill aligns. We know where the hill aligns with. The hill aligns with Upper Hopton. I think once you're aligned with that warrior's tomb, it's a little bit more like aiming up towards the other Blacksmith's Arms. There's two different pubs called Blacksmith Arms. So, you know, look at this. I mean, that is, I would say, whenever this photo was taken, with all the houses and that lot, it's around the same as what Dorchester is now. Do you know what I mean? Back then, we got to the point of what Dorchester's only got to now. So, I think that where Kirklees Council are... Oh, that's Oswestry. This is the main castle one. I mean, what? You see, look what Dorchester are doing. They're not doing this kind of madness. Kirklees Council need to recognise that, right? It's madness. And you've got all these websites with people going on there. Now, why are they doing the town centre again? Why are they doing the town centre again? There's something wrong with that council. It's like they're on amphetamines or steroids. They're on some sort of obsessive overdrive mission. You know when you get an electric guitar and then you plug it in and, you know, you need to get more out of it, and you get all these effects, and then you're twisting the knobs to overdrive and you put it on full. It's like Marty McFly in Back to the Future when he plugs it in and he turns all the knobs up to full. And then he's got that little, what do you call it? That little guitar. I know what they call it. I forgot now. He's got that little tiny guitar, you know, and then he just strums it, and then he goes boom, the speaker blows him flying. That's what Kirklees Council are doing now. I don't know what their obsession is to catch up or do what. Now they've got all these advertising boards and media things. What they're trying to do is they're trying to become Manchester. Kirklees Council wants to be Manchester. It's as if it's trying to catch up or beat it. And we're going to end up merging in with Halifax, Dewsbury and Bradford and Leeds, and it'll just be like Birmingham, you know. And the other places don't seem too obsessed to do that. Oswestry don't want to do that. Dorchester don't want to do that. Why? We need to find out who it is in Kirklees Council. Which people have this obsession with absolute bedlam? Because Dorchester, look at it. It's the year 2022. They've got fashion. They've got restaurants. They've got shopping. But they don't have overdrive. Maximum overdrive. Who is it on Kirklees Council? We need to find out it's all anonymous. Who these staff? Who's the university professors, designers, builders of the universities, of the Kingsgate centres, of the piazzas? You know, who are these people? I want to know their names. Who are they? I want them stood in a row. John, Paul, Max, Phil, Alex, Sam, the designers of Kirklees Council, who cannot stop their obsessive, compulsive designs to twiddle their thumbs and put more advertising market boards. You know, it's like, I don't know what they are doing. We need to tell them, Kirklees Council, this is not Manchester, Bradford, or Leeds. If you require a job in town centre developments, Huddersfield is not the place for you to work. There are other big cities where you can go and obtain employment in jobs and highways. Could you please stand down from your position and go and work somewhere else? Or is it the government that are pushing them? Oh, we have to redevelop the town centre because there's a new railway development and railway line enhancements coming through. Who's doing it? The shadow people. The shadow people in London. Why are they not doing it to Dorchester? Why not they doing it to Oswestry? Like I said, there is something about this place that wants to completely ruin and vandalise a perfectly amazing place which could have as much significance and importance as Dorchester and Maiden Castle, as, you know, Stonehenge, as Silbury Hill, and West Kennet. There's coachloads of Americans going there, but look, there's coachloads and coachloads and coachloads of Americans going there. Chinese, me take picture, but look at it. Fashion shops, Dorchester, restaurants, modern, but not a mess. Why is that? Because the council do not want it to be a complete bedlam mess. But Kirklees Council want a complete bedlam mess, and we need to find out what happened. 1 minute, it's like this. It's not short of houses, right? And the next minute, it is a complete and total bomb site in the wrong places. Look at the top side of the screen. How many fields are there? Many. Why didn't they build the houses there? Why did they just happen to build them there? Because somebody wanted to. We need to find out who it is, you know, and that's what needs to be done. So no, we're not exactly in the countryside now, but this is a good place to show you. Can you see this ridge here that goes out? So if you follow that up, behind there is where the Castle Hill Hillfort is. It's sort of like a boat shape, and then you've got the river coming round. Now, the tribe was meant to be the Brigantes tribe, and some people are relating it to the word bridge, and the Celtic god Bridget, but also for the word bridge as well. But also we've got this term that means like a pier, or a mast, or a walkway. You know, like you've got those crannogs in Scotland, it's a walkway out over the water. So that ridge there itself actually is like a walkway shape out towards the river from down where the Hillfort is. So I think that's something to do with the name of the Brigantes tribe. See, you can see a bit better. It goes up there at Newsham and then across, and it's like that at the other side. So it's actually, if Castle Hill was like a boat pulling up next to the river, which the river goes around the bottom here, then that would almost be like a walkway, a ridge going out to it. And actually, when you're on Castle Hill looking down, there's a couple of, it kind of goes in sections, and they're like these tiers. And it's funny that it's called, that village over there is called Farnley Tiers. So it is actually like a bridge, and when you've got the Celtic god Bridget, and it's the Brigantes tribe, I think that it's actually relevant, and I think that ridge actually is the ridge on what the Brigantes are actually based on, because if you look on the dictionary, I'll show you, it's like walkway, mast or pier, and it actually is like a pier going out towards the river, and if it was surrounded, that's actually like a boat when you're on it, and it's actually like, if when it was all trees, it would be like actually floating on an ocean, it would actually be like an ocean. Now the other site is there. Sun's come out a bit now, so it's actually a little bit bright. So just there, that actually I think was another hill fort. And then there's also Dunelm as well, which I'm not sure if you can see it from here or not, which is over by the actual Pennine Ridge at Meltham. I think you can just, it's quite difficult to make out today. You can actually see Meltham Cop from here. You've got to look sort of where the end of that ridge is on the top of the Pennines. There, right? There's a bit of sunlight shining just sort of there. It's actually just, if you see that peak in the middle, kind of just slightly down diagonal left from it. I don't know how or why they let them build houses on that hill there. It's so obvious from here. I mean, I know they had trees planted in it, but it's just so obvious. I mean, if you've got that hill fort there, it's just down there. How come it's not talked about and how come it's forgotten about? When it's kind of so obvious. And with Dunelm, this camera's not that amazing to see Dunelm from here. Huddersfield is made up of all these sort of kind of tier platforms everywhere. There's loads coming down from Castle Hill on that bridge bit that goes out, which I think is how the Brigantes got the name, because of that bridge section coming out towards the river. It's almost like a pier or a walkway. It reminds you of the Crannog sort of layout. And then there are all these kind of platform bits coming out. It's all like, it is kind of a little bit like Lothlorien really, in the Lord of the Rings style. I actually think that's where Tolkien got his idea from. And then you got the other big hill fort down there, which is covered up, which I think it's been, people have been trying to get people to forget about it and cover it up, which is a shame really. I mean, just look at this, right? Shropshire Council, right? A perfectly amazing and beautiful place, particularly from the view up there, looking at Castle Hill straight on, when it sits right in the middle on this majestic position, right? And from the side it looks like a giant long barrow. It's clearly obvious that that was also had the Brigantes on top of it, right? It's very steep banks all the way around, flat on the top, and it's had trees planted around it to try and hide it since then. And now the council have even let them build houses on it. Clearly obvious, right? 3.5 kilometres between there, right? And if you go down to the south coast to Worthing, the Sisbury Ring Hillfort and Shantisbury Ring, nearly exactly the same distance apart from each other, right? Which is about 3.5 to 4 kilometres apart. Exactly the same distance as these two here, right? And then you've even got the ridge, which is a bridge like the Brigante's bridge, which is pier or mast going out, right? Which goes to the river, which is that long ridge section there on both sides coming out, right? And then we've got Dunelm over there, which is another site next to the moors, right? Yet it's been hidden and covered up. And look at this mess now. This actually, right, with the two beautiful Hillforts, right, and the position with the Pennine Ridge behind it, right, this would have been one of the most spectacular and beautiful places out of all the different Celtic tribes. Even though Maiden Castle Hillfort is about 3 times as big as that there, it's like about 3 times, it's like it would be 3 of those, it's still, with both sites and the positions of them, it would have absolutely been mind-blowing, right? And look at the mess now. Look at this absolute complete mess. Oh, can we build a few more houses? Oh, can we build a few more houses? Oh, can we build a few more houses, right? And this is what happens. Next thing, they're trying to put a cafe on there when, you know, we've all got eating problems anyway. The next thing, they're doping us up with food. So, you know, you get old and your memory's not that good because you're doped up with all this food, right? And then they're trying to put talking buses on to guide you because they want you to obey talking buses, obey the voice, like they want you to obey people in the car. Brain plasticity, getting people to obey speaking voices, right? So they can't use their own judgment, they can't use their own memories, right? That is what these councils, this government, right, has a malicious, criminal, strategic and psychological objective, right? And that is to dominate, conquer, rule, right, in a manipulative way, the people of this country since we've been conquered, and not facilitate and encourage memory, physical fitness, using your own initiative, right, countryside and health, right, and it's actually a hostile takeover of this whole country, right, and the conquering forces has wanted to dominate and rubbish these Hillforts in this country and literally do the best they can to vandalise them and then place their authorities at, you know, Sandringham, Blenheim and at Windsor, right? So they're the grand ones, they're the beautiful ones, and these amazing places which have absolute amazing majestic positions of the countryside, like Old Oswestry Fort and here Maiden Castle, have actually, wherever they can get away with it, they've been slowly corroding and destroying them, right? But out of spite, out of pure spite, right? And that is what they've been doing. Look at that, that was an absolutely beautiful, that would have been a beautiful paired up amazing 2 locations with countryside around them, and they could have actually even been restored. And actually from the view up at the old Freemasons Arms pub, it would have been absolutely beautiful, right? And it's pure jealousy, that's what it is, with a stupid Jubilee Tower, right? So there's criminal intent behind building next to Old Oswestry Fort. The contractors, the builders, right, they're all part of the playing for one team, playing for one side, and that is personal money, profit and gain, and actual theft taken to put us at a loss. The native people of this country are being put at a loss, right? And the government and local councils are making tax gains, money gains and profit and revenue from builders making business. They just can't stop. They've just got to keep it rolling and rolling and rolling, and they're actually destroying the actual people that this country is. The original people of this country, who we are, they're actually destroying us and trying to replace us with talking buses and machines, so we'll obey commands, literally, you know, like as if we're on Star Trek or something, you know, obeying commands of actually speaking machines, not people using human initiative and memory to actually, you know, when you're on buses in your old age, you want talking buses, you want to be able to use your own mind and know where you are. The more and more you shut off and rely and you don't use your memory, then you actually end up losing it, right? That's the problem. And this is what's happening here. We're losing the memories. All this, we're losing the memories of what this place actually was and the people who were here. And it's all been taken over, you know, by McDonald's and talking buses and more houses until there's nothing actually left, because they don't want to actually remember the people. If the memory of the people comes back to them of who they are, and they're eating healthy and not being given this horrible food, then we will actually have the power to make our own decisions, political power, and that is what the Tories don't want. The Tories don't want us to have our own individual political power. They want to ruin and destroy the people and actually control and own the minds, own what they eat, so they're eating really bad food and then got lots of health problems and not keen and sharp, and actually taking the political power away. Because the Tories are criminal anyway. Boris Johnson's criminal and corrupt. He doesn't even tell the truth. He lies. It's just disgusting and disgraceful what that party is doing to this country, and they want prosecuting. We need criminal action. There is criminal intent behind what they are doing to the people of this country. It's criminal intent to deprive them and put them at a loss, and the Tories making a gain. And in fact, that law is ridiculous, because what business is doing and what the corporate world is doing is putting people at a loss and making a gain out of it. And that's what the definition of theft is. The definition of theft is to make a gain and put other people at a loss. And that is what the Tories are doing. The thieves. And it's written in the law. And if anyone had any money in this country it was worth doing anything, it would be to take the Tory party to court and prosecute them for theft and vandalism and actually harming our health. Secret intent, underlying intent to detrimentally harm our health by, if you watch Dr. Ekberg on his bread video on YouTube, they've actually modified bread so they're poisoning our metabolism, so it actually destroys the metabolism, right? And we all end up putting up weight and we're all not fit for purpose. The criminal intent, it's vandalising that Hillfort and that Hillfort, right, is like vandalising our bodies, and that is what they're doing because they want to rule and dominate us, right, and put us at a disadvantage, and that is what they're wanting to do. It's absolutely ridiculous. We could have had a beautiful landscape here, planned out, all nice and beautiful, all healthy eating places without any refined sugars and flours, which is destroying his metabolism, which is it's now been all the doctors are talking about on YouTube, right? I'm not making it up. You can go on YouTube and watch Dr. Berg and Dr. Ekberg, because that's what they're talking about, that the foods we're being given now are actually harmful to us. See that Zenica there down by the river, and that's all flat, and I've never seen it from this view before. It all makes sense from this view, because it didn't used to be Zenica, it used to be the ICI making chemicals. So you got this ICI chemicals right next to where the moors are, where you can get loads of Liberty caps anyway, which is now a legal substance. Then you've got the Dunelm Hill, which is really right on the prime sort of cultivation spot running. In fact, it's almost like it's got a little allotment for growing Liberty caps down the side of it. That Dunelm, which is kind of lit up now, it's just got sunlight. Then you've got the Castle Hill, and then you've got that other massive Hillfort there next to the river that goes up to Hull in the Sea. So, you know, if we were getting flint from well, we were getting flint from Spiving, it was supplying all of Britain, there's evidence for that, and it's next to the ocean, that was supplying it by sea, flint to all of Britain. So, you know, I think we were supplying religious sacrament from this area, because we had, you know, there's all those sites and dolmens and that everywhere, all over the place. And this is where you get massive amounts of them from the moors here anyway, and Lancashire, and North Yorkshire as well. But the sea route here is a good supply route, you know. So we'll be able to supply a lot of the country if there were, you know, to the different religious, to the religious order. And that's what they don't want you to know. With three Hillforts here, that would put this right it'd be really significant place. Well, it is a really significant place. We try to cover it up. I'm not saying that Old Oswestry is not significant. It is, and so is Midden Castle as well. You can really see that ridge from here. It's almost with the other hill fort that's over here that's been covered up, right, and they're trying to like hide it from us. It's almost like from that hill fort there, that ridge goes out, and it's kind of like another protective barrier against it. And then you've got the Pennine Ridge, the whole Pennines in the background. There's like another kind of protective thing. It definitely is like, when you look at the meaning for it, it's like pier or a mast that goes out, and that ridge is. So that I think is where Brigantes would get the name from. So all that nonsense about, you know, North Yorkshire with Romans, there is some earthworks up there, but they're not that significant. Wish the sun had come out. Never been out on this bit before either. It's an amazing view of Castle from here, actually. Really amazing. And you can see the other hill fort from here. Like, it's so obvious, but the thing is, I've never been up here before, and when you're just driving around, or you know, round and about town, you don't see it from this view. But I've never been on this walk here, or this road. I can't believe I've not been on the edge of here before, or knew about it. There's a woman walking a dog there as well. I've seen some other people walking. I can't believe it. I just don't get it. I can't believe nobody's said about this before. Because when you stood at the edge of here, everything looks really small. Just like when you stood on Castle Hill, everything does. But obviously at Castle Hill you can see Family Tyres at the other side. And you can actually see the Dunelm Hills just lit up now with... The Dunelm Hill is just lit up. It's just got the sun on it, and I can actually see the Dunelm Hill really clear from here now. Over there, and then Castle Hill, and then the other one there, which is just so obvious. It's just so obvious, and like, I can't believe no one complained about it when they built houses on. I just don't get why it's been covered up. Mainly, obviously, because we've been conquered. That's why. That's what happens when you get conquered, and then they put talking buses on and sat navs, and then feed you up with dodgy bread that destroys your metabolism because they want to dominate and rule you. That's the problem. They don't want to make people more fit and intelligent so they can be individuals and have their own opinion, because then they'd lose in Parliament and then they won't be conquering and ruling everyone anymore. That's the problem with Boris Johnson and the Tory party. They want to beat you, be better than you, and don't actually want to help you get good. They want to kind of pretend to be your friend while you're getting worse, and they want to ruin and rubbish everything, you know, that actually you like and love, and make themselves better. That's the problem with the Tories. They're vindictive, they're spiteful, and they're just disgraceful. And you know, all this Boris Johnson lying and all this Tory stuff, and just carrying on and ignoring it. I don't know how they're getting away with it, because it's pure criminality. They're criminals. Actually, when you stood here, that Warriors Tomb, Hillfort, is actually not that far away from. It's not far away from the river, really. Because the river's only down there. The river's only down there. So with this ICI place, no one goes on here because of the ICI place, but actually, if you actually go the route this side, this weird kind of little bit coming up from this ICI place here, which is the ICI site, I didn't realise, you always think it runs that way, but there's this long bit that comes out here, and it's almost bridge-like, almost like the bridge of the ridge, like the bridge of that ridge there that comes out from Castle Hill, like the Brigante bridge. And actually, this way from there to the river is not that far at all either. Never mind Castle Hill. Now, this view makes sense of everything. You can see Dunelm Hill there, which has just got the sun on it now. It's just to the sort of left of the end of the ridge, just got the sun on it right in the far background. And you can see Castle Hill, and you can see that one there. And there's the river. And I've always thought this is a good kind of lookout point on top of there. I think this was a good little thing, because you can see the whole thing there. I can't understand why they've let him build on there, and why it's not more recognised. When he's even on old maps, it's called Warriors 2. And even the archaeology student noted it as well. I just can't, I don't know what is in the mind. And the fact they blocked off the view from the Freemasons so you couldn't even see the nice view of Castle Hill. This is actually important as well, which you can see from here. You can see all of the sites really well. But from the Freemasons' Arms, it's a really nice view of Castle Hill right in the middle. And that's the view that's got blocked off. And actually, they could have done something here, like a nice sort of viewpoint. But then again, I don't really want to have any more cafes, because that's the problem. Making me think of the Lost Boys now. It's like, notice anything unusual about Senecala? It's like, oh, notice anything unusual about, what they've done to Huddersfield? Oh yeah, totally written it off, That's, notice anything unusual about Senecala? Notice anything unusual about Huddersfield? Yeah, they've written off a perfectly decent ancient site, and they try to do it with all Oswestry now and the rest of them, because they're criminals. A bit weird about this being called Jagger Lane as well, because there's a Jagger Lane at Emily Moor next to Emily Moor Mast. I wonder how long it's been called Jagger Lane for. I'd like to see the records to see when it's been called Jagger Lane for, because when they ended up setting up Mick Jagger to be a rock star, the Rolling Stones. But I think that's significant. So here's a good view of this Warriors Tomb Hillfort. And then there's Castle Hill on the top there, which if you're on that other Hillfort, obviously you'll be going down a little bit, so you'll only just be able to make Castle Hill out. You can see the exact top deck of Castle Hill when you're on that other Hillfort there. And from up at Dalton Bank up there, you can actually see the Dunelm Hill as well, and the whole valley. And actually this is not even that far from the river anyway when we're here. It's quite amazing really. It is so obvious. I've always looked at it and thought, but the thing is, from certain positions that you can't normally get to and look at, and the fact that it's kind of covered up so you can't see it, it also makes sense to me. And I think there's 3 sites, particularly knowing what I know about Worthing now, those 2 Hillforts, and the fact what they were doing and the supplying on them. And usually if you're getting supplying something, you usually have a couple of sites within close proximity, maybe even 3.